Have you ever just looked at a speaker and wondered, how? You know, how does this one simple box, with its cone just moving back and forth, manage to recreate the thunder of a bass drum or the most delicate notes of a violin? Well, we're going to pull back the curtain on that right now and demystify the magic behind how speakers really work.
I mean, that's the core question here, isn't it? It just seems impossible that this one single repetitive motion could contain all the complexity and all the emotion of music. But it can, and the answer is somehow both simpler and way more brilliant than you might think.
All right, so to crack this mystery, we have to start with the speaker's simple secret. Let's get right down to it. At its most basic level, what even is a speaker? And believe it or not, this is the whole secret right here. Every single speaker, from the tiniest earbud to a massive concert setup, boils down to just these two things. You've got a motor that creates the movement, and you've got a cone that uses that movement to push the air. That's it. It's this incredibly elegant two-part system that is the foundation for everything else. So here's how that system actually works. First, the motor provides this incredibly rapid back and forth action. And the cone, which is attached right to it, basically acts like a tiny, super precise plunger. Every time it moves forward, it pushes the air in front of it. And that push creates a ripple, a pressure wave that travels through the room right to your eardrum. And that right there is sound. So everything hinges on that movement. But how in the world does the motor generate it so precisely and so fast? Okay, let's go one level deeper into the speaker's engine room. All right, let's meet the heart of the motor. It's called the voice coil, and really, it's just a simple cylinder wrapped in thin copper wire. But this is where things get really clever. The moment you send an electric current through that wire, a magnetic field instantly blossoms around it. And that simple action turns our voice coil into an electromagnet. Now, this is not like the magnet on your fridge. An electromagnet is dynamic. Its power isn't fixed. You have complete, instantaneous control over its strength and even its polarity, north and south, just by changing the electricity you're feeding it. And this is the brilliant part of the design. You see, the speaker has a big, powerful, permanent magnet that's fixed in place. It's always on, its magnetic field is static. But nestled right inside it is our voice coil, the electromagnet that we can control. So you've got this constant, unchanging force, meeting a variable, dynamic force. And that interaction is the key to creating motion. So by constantly altering that electrical current, the voice coil's magnetic field is rapidly changing. It's getting stronger, weaker, even flipping its polarity. This causes it to violently push away from and then pull back towards the permanent magnet. It's this magnetic battle, this incredibly fast push and pull dance that creates the precise vibration we need to make sound. Okay, so we've got this controllable electromagnet doing its dance. But what's controlling it? It can't just be random power. And that's where we get to the electrical blueprint, the signal itself. And get this, because this is maybe the most incredible part of the whole thing. The electricity being sent to that voice coil isn't just raw energy. It is an audio signal, an exact electrical blueprint of the sound wave that was originally recorded. Every tiny nuance of a singer's voice, every pluck of a guitar string, it's all encoded in that current. This quote just nails it. A speaker isn't really an instrument that's inventing sound. It's more like a translator. Its one and only job is to take that impossibly detailed electrical signal and faithfully turn it back into physical movement. The motor and the cone are just following the complex instructions written in the language of electricity. So we know how the speaker moves, but how does that physical movement actually become the sound that we hear? Well, to understand that, we have to ask an even more basic question. So you got to remember the air all around us isn't empty space. It's packed with molecules. And air is what's called an elastic medium, which is just a fancy way of saying when you push on it, it pushes back. So as the speaker cone moves forward, it shoves a group of air molecules, and they bump into the next group, which then bump into the next. It's a perfect chain reaction, a domino effect that travels through the air as a wave. This is a pretty mind-bending way to think about it. When that wave of moving air molecules finally reaches your ear, it physically moves your eardrum, and your brain interprets that specific movement as sound. So hearing isn't some abstract, magical sense. It's your body's incredibly sensitive motion detector for the air around you.
Now, we always see sound drawn as that simple 2D wavy line on a graph, right? But that's just a representation. The reality is so much cooler. A sound wave is a three-dimensional expanding sphere of pressure. As the speaker cone pushes out, it creates this sphere of high-pressure compressed air. And as it pulls back, it leaves a sphere of low-pressure decompressed air right behind it. Sound is literally a ripple of pressure expanding outwards in all directions. So how do we get all the different sounds in music from that one ripple? Well, it all comes down to controlling two simple things. First, you've got amplitude. That's basically how hard the speaker cone pushes the air. A bigger, more forceful push creates a more intense pressure wave, which our brain hears as more volume. And second, you've got frequency. That's how fast the cone is vibrating back and forth. Fast vibrations give you high-pitched notes, while those slow, booming vibrations create deep bass. And the range of frequencies the human ear can pick up is just wild. We can perceive vibrations as slow as 20 times per second. That's a deep, foundational rumble you almost feel more than hear, all the way up to a piercing 20,000 times per second, which is a high-pitched hiss right at the very edge of our perception. A good speaker's job is to precisely recreate any and every frequency within that massive sonic playground.
Okay, so we've got volume and we've got pitch. That makes sense. But that still doesn't explain how a speaker can recreate dozens of different instruments all at the same time. How does it possibly manage that complexity?
The answer to that lies in a beautiful concept called timbre. Timbre is what makes a G note played on a piano sound totally different from the exact same G note played on a guitar. It's the unique character, the texture of a sound. And the secret is that a single note from an instrument is never just one frequency. It's actually a complex stack of vibrations, what we can call a frequency sandwich. Think about a plucked guitar string. Yeah, its main vibration creates the fundamental pitch. That's the G note you clearly hear. But at the same time, the string is also vibrating in smaller sections all along its length, creating countless, fainter, higher-pitched vibrations called overtones. It's this specific recipe, the main note plus its unique blend of all those overtones, that our brain instantly recognizes as the sound of a guitar and not a violin. Now, just imagine an entire orchestra playing at once. Each instrument is producing its own unique frequency sandwich. All of those incredibly complex waves combine together in the air, merging into a single unified waveform. It's this unbelievably detailed composite wave that a microphone captures, turns into that electrical signal, and sends to your speaker to reproduce with its one single back and forth movement. So in the end, it all comes back to movement. A speaker moves, that moves the air, and that moves your eardrum. So the final thought I want to leave you with is this. If our entire sense of hearing is based on detecting motion within a specific range, just think about all the other movements, all the other vibrations happening all around us right now. That is simply too high or too low for us to ever perceive.